All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's time for game number 3, the final match between lalush and RaNgeD. This has been an epic Zerg versus Protoss matchup with both players going for, playing to the maximum potential, cats, but not really finishing their game in the ways that they wanted to because they're kind of going for the wrong builds or getting their builds denied in certain ways.
Yep, absolutely, guys. So this is game number 3 between lalush, who is spawning as our red Zerg player down here at the 6 o'clock position on Metalopolis. At the 12 o'clock position, we have RaNgeD spawning as our purple Protoss player. So Protoss versus Zerg once again, cross positions. I'm sure lalush will be happy to know that that is the case. Should be able to execute a little more macro strategy. Now, I'm really curious to see what he does because he knows RaNgeD's normal strategy if RaNgeD is able to execute the strategy that he wants. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how he reacts to them. And unfortunately, RaNgeD is scouting close positions by ground. Can't have that on this map, but hopefully he'll know for later.
Well, cats, I'm hoping that lalush is able to adapt his strategy and not invest into 10 infestors, because I think that's how many infestors he had last game at one point, which in my opinion is overkill, unless he was planning to catch the Protoss ball as it was balled up and just continuously vomit with continuous fungal growth. That may have worked, but against a mass gateway force, it's very hard for them to ball up into one small surface area for fungal growth to work like that. So I hope lalush adapts his strategy. I like the Hydra play. I would love to see some Mutalisks as well to harass the Protoss mineral line. And as far as RaNgeD goes, keep going with what works, I would say. In fact, it almost looks like he wants to try Dark Templar so bad. Every game he's gotten Twilight Council, right? Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. And it's kind of clever on this map as well, especially when your cross positions. A Zerg player is probably going to go into that macro, lots of Zergling style, just for zone control and things like that, until he establishes what sort of tech he wants to go for. And it'd be really, really curious to see if, because players will go pretty late layer tech as well, maybe in favor of a third base or maybe in favor of just more units. So DTs, kind of surprise DTs, can be pretty
DTs
effective.
are always a surprise, man.
Well, that is true.
That's why they're cloaked.
Yes.
They're the 007 of StarCraft 2.
Yes, very much so. Who was that? I think there was a pretty popular streaming service that started playing like the 007 theme whenever a DT would get into a mineral line or something like that. It was hysterical every time I heard it.
I have to watch that.
So here we have now RaNgeD is actually going after his second gas, same timings that he has. Unfortunately, it looks like the drone was not able to stop the cybernetic score this time, and I take back what I said in game number 1. I thought that RaNgeD maybe just didn't know what opponent he was facing or what the case may be.
Nope.
But it looks like this is what he does.
Yeah, maybe this is just his strategy. I can't begin to fathom why he builds a gateway inside the main first, because he's gonna build that second gateway at the front door anyways. Maybe he just he likes to have guests come in his house. Maybe he likes to leave the door open for a little bit.
It does give him a little bit more mining time. He's able to drop that down, and I guess he assumes he has it timed out that against a hatch first build that he can get out really, really fast second gateway and protect himself, but we'll find out. First sentry is out now. It's going to chase down this poor drone. Drone is going to fall eventually. It'll try and get whatever scouting information it can here for a while. And back on lalush's side of things, well, here, let's see. It looks like he tried to run in with a few Zerglings there, but that's not really going to be able to do that much damage, just more of an annoyance than anything else. But back on lalush's side of things, no inclination of tech quite yet. The second base just finishing. 2 queens are already finished, but no creep tumors down.
Yeah, that's a little strange that he's not using the second queen to make a creep tumor. I can't help but feel that may be a mistake. Not sure what he's doing with that, because usually the optimal play for Zerg players, get the 2 queens out right away and get the second queen as a creep spitter, so to say. And I don't know what the creep that queen is doing. Finally, it's going to be throwing down the creep tumor. A probe will make its way into the main to scout the Zerg player and see exactly what he's up to. And as it stands right now, both players are just building up their forces. It looks like we are having a 3-gate expo build for RaNgeD.
Yep, absolutely. Not too surprised to see that either. Looks like Hallucination is just researching as well. All of these gates could become warp gates here if they so desired. There they go.
I think they do want to desire to be a warp gate.
Absolutely.
Natural evolution.
It looks like the Nexus does come down, so RaNgeD with that 3-gate expo. lalush goes right into a Roach Warren once again. No deviation on his build so far. He's going to go right to a lair here relatively soon. He will have the resources for that. in a second. At the same time, RaNgeD going after that Forge. So really no deviations from what we've seen out of these players.
Now the thing about that Roach Warren, as lalush is doing it, as a Zerg player, he's building it as a precautionary building in case the Protoss player attacks with the 4-gate, in case he attacks with any kind of forces, he will be prepared to make roaches. I would be very surprised to see him make any roaches at all once that Roach Warren finishes. I feel like he's only making it just as a precaution, and he's just playing a very safe and conservative style. So yes, he's not really making a single roach whatsoever, saving it in the background in case he needs it. And it almost seems like that's lalush's playstyle, Cats. He likes to build the production facilities just in case. Last game he built the Spire and he built the Hydralisk Den, and he never made a single Hydra or Spire or Muta.
Yeah, and like you said though, you were kind of saying in the last game, it's just really nice to have those available at any given point in time, because at a moment's notice, you can say, oh, this army composition is coming at me. Make X units, you know? Oh, another composition is coming at me. Switch that unit production. You just need to have that structure available, and you can produce as many of that unit at a time as you would like. So,
well, as much as larva that you have.
That's very true, yes. But
so Zerg does have a limit to how many units it can produce. Contrary to popular belief, it's not like Zerg everything, but as much as some Zerg players would hope.
And 10 roaches are coming up, along with the lair tech just finishing. And also, down at the bottom right, we have lalush finishing up a third base, much earlier third base, and we've seen him play without any aggression as of yet.
We actually have a push out here before +1 weapons finishes, once again using a timing that is unusual to Zerg players. Now, we do have a counterattack of Zerglings trying to make their way in, but their photon cannon there should be able to deny most of the Zerglings. Oh! One Zergling able to leak in, but decides to run back out into a cannon. Not sure what that was about, Cats, but what I'm saying here is this push actually, it looks like RaNgeD is going to fall back, but it does force lalush to make 7 roaches, so those are roaches that he actually doesn't really need and could have been more drones.
Yep, and it looks like Glad Reconstitution is coming up as well, so we'll that's certainly a critical upgrade for those roaches. Needs that for the mobility. Oh, poor Zerglings do bite the dust right there.
Yep.
And going right back into an infestation pit, this time a little bit earlier, in earlier than 10-minute infestation pit. And I gotta say, I like we were talking about before, we really like infestors. I really advocate their use in more matchups, but until he sees Robo Bay, he really needs to think about those Hydras right away. And in addition, he needs to think about Neural Parasite. I think it was Idra just recently who made a joke that that Immortal Roach is a really good counter to Stalkers, jabbing at the fact of using Neural Parasite to take over a lot of Immortals. So
he actually showcased it pretty well. He was able to Neural Parasite Immortals against Stalkers, and Immortals just slay Stalkers like no other. Now, it's an opportunity that rarely comes up, because how often are you going to have Infestors to Neural Parasite an Immortal? It just doesn't really happen that often. Usually you have a bigger or more badass unit to mind control.
And this is actually kind of interesting, because RaNgeD is going into heavy tech production at the moment. He has a Twilight Council coming up with a robotics bay and upgrades on his forge, so he's investing in a lot of tech at this point. And if lalush would do something, well, actually, I take that back. I was going to say lalush has an opportunity to just max on 3 bases and then just run and crush his opponent, especially because RaNgeD is going to another base. But lalush is doing the same thing. He's going to a 4th hatch as well, so he's not going to play as overtly aggressive. But I don't know. This is going to be very weird. I mean, it almost looks like we're going to be staring down a 200 food death ball from each army kind of running at each other.
It certainly looks that way, Cats. I think both players here are going to be very content to max out. I love the gateway positioning here by RaNgeD. This basically seals off one of the openings to the 3rd expansion and forces Zerg player, if he wants to attack, to funnel through the natural, in between the natural and the 3rd, and that's not a situation that is optimal for Zerg players when they're trying to be offensive. Another thing I would love to point out here is the creep spread, immediately making a super highway over to the 4th and now 5th expansions. That's going to allow lalush to defend whenever possible and basically protect himself against any kind of a gateway attack or any kind of attack in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like he's actually going to that 5th base that you were kind of hinting at before as well. So the creep spread is certainly going to help him transfer those drones over. Also give him mobility with queens. So
actually, I think drones float above creeps. I don't know.
Very interesting. Oh no, you're exactly right. Yeah, they have the same speed. But it's but I mean, he's got they just glide through the air. Ooh.
Exactly.
but surrounding the Manx statue as well. So BM. But yeah, I'm really interested because both these players just do not want to engage. They're both letting each other play out their strategies. Both are convinced that their unit composition is superior, and I've seen all too many times where Zerg players will allow a Protoss player to max despite the fact that they have a significant advantage and have the potential to do some drops, flank maneuvers, stuff like that, and then they just try to kind of run into a wall, and it just doesn't work out well for them, especially as lalush has conceded the upgrade advantage on most of the games. Looks like this time finally putting up 2-1 at the same time, so we should be pretty close, but I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with him just letting RaNgeD play his style of game the entire time.
Well, the thing here about RaNgeD is he's only playing on 3 bases, which typically is fine for a Protoss player who knows his direction. But it almost seems like RaNgeD is confused a little bit. He's going for Dark Shrine right now. He's gone for Colossus at the same time. He has Immortals out on the field. He's getting all these upgrades. It almost seems like he's straining a little bit on gas. That's how I honestly feel. And if we look at the army tabs right now, he is at 156 under 181, so it's pretty even right now because Zerg does need to be ahead by a little bit. But I like this. This is what I was going to mention. RaNgeD needs a 4th base because the Zerg has 5, and thankfully he is going to get that 4th base. So yes, now he will be able, if he establishes this gold, to fund all these tech routes that he's going for. And in fact, he's adding another tech route now, the Templar Archives.
And going to a Stargate.
He's getting everything except the mothership, man.
He is exploring every possible tech path that a Protoss player can. It reminds me of something I saw on Reddit the other day of Minigun. There was a picture of Minigun, and the player was asking him, was that a 1-gate expo? And he said, yeah, into 3 Stargate carriers. It's standard. So, I kind of get that feeling here. RaNgeD is just exploring everything, wants to be prepared in every circumstance. We also have a Greater Spire coming up for lalush. However, it looks like these Stalkers are going to take down this base, moving themselves away, so the Broodlings aren't going to do all that much. Poor Overlord is going to go down as well, but very nice job of sniping that and immediately running back. Fungal growth does go down, but lalush does not have all of his units in position. He doesn't want to attack through that choke with these thermal lanced Colossi.
Oh, this is actually a really scary situation for lalush as he's trying to make 6 Corruptors right now. He doesn't have any anti-air to deal with the Colossus, and this is really nasty because look at the ground. He doesn't have anything that can hit those 4 Colossus in the back. I don't believe he has Neuroparasite. In fact, if we could check on that, that would be really helpful. He doesn't have Neuroparasite, has to use Fungal Growth to try to lock the Protoss army down, and this is not looking good, but his Corruptors are nearly out, about 6 of them now just popping, and he has to hold off this Protoss attack right here, right now, but his positioning is not very good, and his Corruptors are just running over the Protoss army. Not good at all for lalush.
Nope, and it looks like the rest of this army is going to get cleaned up here pretty well. He is reinforcing very well. I will give that to him. He's producing a lot of units, a lot of Corruptors coming up, and it looks like that RaNgeD is going to be down to just Colossi. He needs to turn around, though, and just pick off as many Hydras as he can to make these. Yeah, exactly. If he does that, he'll be okay. Just needs to let these Corruptors slow push him back. lalush was getting a little greedy there with those Hydras, and it looks like RaNgeD is going to be able to mitigate that damage a little bit. Does pick off a few Hydras. But right now, lalush up by 40 supply, RaNgeD with the better higher tech units, but there are 6 Broodlords coming in, and if those are able to establish themselves, that is going to be a huge problem for RaNgeD.
Well, I do believe RaNgeD has Void Rays on the way. Yeah, he built a Stargate, and we do see on the production tab 1 Void Ray on the way. Void Rays are the absolute counter to both Broodlords and Corruptors. I would like to see RaNgeD commit more to Void Rays right now. It looks like he's actually making 2 Dark Templar, or has them somewhere on the map. Yeah, some Cloaked Assassins 007s are being sent out. That's 007 and that's 008. Let's see what kind of damage they can do.
So here comes RaNgeD now. Let's see how many kills he actually ends up getting. No. Oh, yes, there are Spore Crawlers. Yep, Spore Crawlers are going to be able to take down one of those units. The other Dark Templar is going to make his way through. No Spore Crawlers over here, though. See if he goes after the Queen while he attacks with these units actually denying the gold right there. And this, oh, wow, DT is going to get a Queen kill. Doesn't look like lalush is reacting to this. He's more worried about this giant army that's out in front. The Broodlords did push themselves forward for a second. My God, 9 Broodlords with 3 more morphing in at the moment. This Dark Templar already has 9 kills. It's actually going to be able, already an instructor. If it ever comes back to life, it will be able to let other Dark Templar know how to do their jobs. But, very, very good job. And that's allowing RaNgeD back into this as far as all of...
Oh, did the Dark Templar see the Broodlords? That's actually absolutely key right now because I don't know. I'm pretty sure that RaNgeD saw those Broodlords, and that is essential. He needs to know how many Broodlords are on the map right now because if he doesn't get the proper anti-air right now, and that includes Storm, that includes Void Rays, whatever have you, I don't think he has enough. It's certainly going to be a strange situation if he can get the Stalkers to blink underneath the Broodlords, and hopefully the Stalkers don't get killed off by the Roaches. Then he's going to have a good situation, but that's so many Broodlords, man, and he only has one Stargate to replenish his Void Ray numbers.
Oh, and here he comes right now. So the Thermal Lance Colossi doing so much damage to the ground army. There's the Blink. Blink does manage to pick off a couple of the Broodlords, but there are just too many of them. They are doing so much damage. These Colossi are going to have to run away, and unfortunately, these Void Rays are going to be cleaned up by all of the infested Terrans that are underneath. Look at the way the infested Terrans rip through those Void Rays, and just like you said, too many Broodlords are out there, and lalush is going to be able to walk that Death Army up.
Yeah, that Instructor Dark Templar you were talking about before, I mean, it got a lot of kills, but did it scout the Broodlords? And I wonder if RaNgeD had just used it to scout rather than kill drones, if he would have been in a better position in this game, because he would have saw all those cocoons that were morphing into Broodlords. He would have been able to Chrono Boost Void Rays, quickly Chrono Boost Psystorm, what have you, and he would have been more prepared. But it looks like those Broodlords completely caught him off guard, and now really I wonder what he's gonna do, because he's only got one single Stargate. It looks like he's not gonna produce any more Void. Well, yeah, he's gonna make a Void Ray right now, but he doesn't have that many Void Rays, and really it almost seems like he lacks anti-air to deal with those Broodlords. It's gonna come down to his Micro Man, and this is gonna be a tough situation.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very tough situation. So RaNgeD is gonna make his way back up now. Here come the rest of the units, mostly Zergling ground army, and if he can actually pick off most of those Zerglings and get these Stalkers to absorb some of the damage and go after the Broodlords, that's gonna be his best chance. Storms go down though, and the Broodlings are dying very quickly. The rest of the Broodlords are going down as well. These Void Rays are actually able to get in there and do some damage. Now they're finally picked off, and it looks like these Hydras are going to make their way up for lalush, and I don't think RaNgeD has anything to hold that off.
I don't know if I exactly agree with the Stalkers blinking up there, because he essentially blinked into all those Hydras and the Broodlings and their own Psystorm down below. So I don't know what the idea behind that was. I think he could have waited for a better engage, a better opportunity, but really it almost seems like he was behind anyways. I mean, look at the banked resources. The Zerg has 3,000, 1,000. The Protoss at a 500 measly, and he's still down by about 90 supply. The Colossus falls, the probes are dying. The Nexus is in the red, and it's about to explode into blue fireworks. Down it goes, and it is not looking good right now for RaNgeD whatsoever. I think lalush is poised to take this series and win the last game.
Yep, absolutely. It looks like RaNgeD now bringing in the last few units. No Storm, unfortunately.
So sad,
I am too. It looks like
you see a Templar die and it doesn't get its Storm off. It's like gut-wrenching, you know.
So anticlimactic too. Yeah. I know. Ugh. But it looks like the Broodlord's going to make their way through. These Stalkers blinking themselves back, but it's really not going to matter. RaNgeD throwing down the very mannered. Good game, well played. And lalush does indeed take the set, 2-1.
Yeah, props to him. RaNgeD giving him the GG. Once again, just looking at this game in general, I really feel like RaNgeD, if he had scouted, I'm not sure if he had an observer of the Broodlords, because really his anti-air in that last battle almost seemed kind of measly. And I wish he had more Void Rays. If he had thrown down 2 or 3 more Stargates and just used all of his Nexuses, mass Chrono Boost Void Rays, he would have been in a much better position.
You know, because he didn't really have the economy to support this ridiculous number of gates that he was floating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know there's more. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 gates. Now, he was certainly not producing 15 Stalkers at a time. And if he had just taken the resources from like 5 of those gates and turned it into another Stargate or 2 like you were talking about, definitely would have had the Void Rays to support and annihilate really all of the Broodlords that were up, and probably would have turned these scales in his favor.
Yeah, now I want to say one last thing. The Infestors in this game really came in handy, and it comes in handy when they're conjoined with Broodlords, because Broodlords have no anti-air. Infested Terrans are great anti-air units. Fungal Growth is good against Void Rays, so this is where lalush's strategy really comes into a mind of its own, but he needs to get into the late game for it to really work out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as we kind of saw in the last game, he was really disrupted. In game number 2, he was disrupted before he was able to get that under progress. He didn't have the unit composition to support it, wasn't able to work into that Broodlord infestor territory, but he did this game, and congratulations to him. So guys, that does wrap up this set. If you've enjoyed the IGN Pro League, please do check us out at IGN.com/IPL. Also, these links down in the bottom left will direct you to our social media as at IGN Pro League on Twitter, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Justin TV. You can also check out HD and I stuff at twitter.com/catspajamassc2.
Yeah, I don't have a Twitter, but I do have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/HD StarCraft.
So thanks very much, guys, for tuning in. Until next time, this is Cats Pajamas and HD signing out.
Peace.